And creating jobs, that's going to be at the heart of a discussion today that the state's business leaders are going to talk about along with Governor Susana Martinez.
Yes, the cuts to federal dollars still pending. Well, that could mean thousands of New Mexicans could lose their high-paying jobs. Our News 13's David Romero is live at the Hotel Albuquerque where economic leaders plan to meet.
All right, good morning to you, David. I imagine they're already talking about what these cuts could do, right?
Those cuts could be bad and could be deep here, especially in this state, Matt and Elizabeth. And of course, several topics will be on the agenda, but the heart of it all will be surrounding those jobs. And more importantly, for the thousands of New Mexicans who depend on federal jobs for employment, according to a UNM study, about 20,000 plus jobs could be lost in New Mexico for workers in defense and lab positions. Now, with those jobs depending on what lawmakers in Washington decide as to what will be cut spending-wise in the next few months, economic leaders here say more private sector jobs here could help offset that. Now that means attracting more companies by doing things like restructuring how they pay taxes to the state.
That's why I believe the governor is so focused on how to attract the private, more companies and to grow the private sector. That could be a way to mitigate against the negative impact of reduced federal dollars.
And of course, also expected to be discussed later today here at this forum at Hotel Albuquerque are things like taxes and public education. Matt, back to you.
All right, thank you for the heads up on that, David. Besides all that, the governor's been pushing to get more education reform here in New Mexico, and she says that would better prepare students to go out in the workforce and keep them here in New Mexico. In other news for you this morning, TSA, the Transportation Security Administration, the agents from it, will be at the Sunport as usual today, but they hope they're not going to find any more of what they've come across recently, including 2 grenades. Take a look. These are pictures we got from the TSA. Agents found these in checked bags, and you do know, hopefully, that live or not, you still cannot take grenades on a plane. You really shouldn't have them, period. Agents also found grenades recently in Salt Lake City, Tampa, Miami, and Dallas. They're going around, I guess.
He was an APD officer convicted of running a burglary ring while still on the force. He's now been released from prison for good time, but he wasn't, or that wasn't why he was behind bars. Bob Davis was sentenced in the early 80s for a 3-state crime spree. According to prison records, Davis had some serious issues behind bars. Not only did he escape from prison twice, he apparently had so many problems that he was sent to a California prison. Despite all of that, he was allowed to be released on parole. The reason, if an inmate behaves after they are disciplined, they can earn their good time back.
Is reviewed thoroughly, whether the inmate has been in the prison system 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or 5 years ago.
Now, back when Davis was convicted in the 80s, the law required him to just serve about 50% of his sentence if he behaved. That was back then, 50% of his sentence. Since then, the law has changed, and most inmates now have to serve at least 85% of their sentence. News 13 has learned that the victim in the Arriba County murder shouldn't have been out on the streets in the first place. Deputies say 17-year-old Jeremy Lopez and 21-year-old Eric Rodriguez, both of Española, beat and shot 20-year-old Marco Biquet over a stolen PlayStation. Now, the victim has a long criminal history. He was actually sentenced to 2 years in the Bernalillo County Detention Center for aggravated battery. He was transferred to the Santa Fe County Detention Center pending another criminal charge and was mistakenly released in October. Police say the 2 suspects in his murder actually dumped Biquet's body off of a bridge near the Santa Clara Pueblo. They are now facing murder charges.
One man in jail in Valencia County right now accused of killing his own father about a fight for a dog. Sheriff's deputies say that Michael Roybal and his father Henry started arguing about Michael's dog at their home in Las Maravillas on New Year's Eve. Then deputies say Michael killed his dad. They're trying to figure out exactly how that happened. They say Michael did not use a weapon. All right, drinking and driving. Huge problem here in New Mexico. Happens far too often, but there is a new plan to keep those dangerous drivers off the roads in here.
Yes, ignition locks have kept some drunk drivers off the road, but some still manage to avoid them by telling the judge that they don't own a car.
Most of them would be back into the court within a couple weeks and say, "Judge, I found a car to drive."
Well, a new proposal hopes to catch drunk offenders before they even leave their home. Listen to this. It would require anyone convicted of a DUI to use a breathalyzer twice a day. The theory is that if someone is afraid to drink, they may not drive drunk again. Some say probably won't do any good. The same proposal will also require drunk drivers to prove that they're sober for 6 months before they can get their license. A New Mexico detox center says a lack of funding may force them to close up shop. About 24,000 people take advantage of the Nanuzoji Incorporated's program in Gallup. The executive director says the Navajo Nation has been a big source of funding. In 2005, they contributed about $2 million, but that number keeps decreasing.
We know what they do. We know what they're capable of doing. We're definitely thankful for their services.
The Navajo Nation says they're going to have an application process to give other detox centers throughout the reservation an opportunity to compete for funding. NCI is looking into getting city funding or federal funding to keep it running.
And listen to this. It's something you definitely don't hear about every day. In fact, it's being called a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Scientists at UNM are now looking at a meteorite that they say came all the way from Mars. This space rock, get this, is about 2.1 billion years old. They're calling it Black Beauty. Why? Because it's black. And scientists have had it here for the last year after it was found in the Sahara Desert in Africa.
That is pretty cool.
I know. I hope they give us a picture of that thing.
Yeah.
2.1 billion years old. They think it came from the crust of Mars.
That's interesting.
That's definitely not something you see every day.
No.